Hi, this is Pradeep Talloju from Progress Software, and today we'll talk about Apigee API Management by Google. We'll go ahead and take a look at Apigee's product offerings first, and then we'll go ahead and take a look at the differences between those various offerings. We'll talk about how the network topology is placed for working with Apigee API Lifecycle Management at a high level, and then we'll jump on to some demos. So let's get started. So let's take a look at Apigee product offerings. Before we go into the product offerings, a brief history, a knowledge of brief history helps. Apigee by itself was a company that hosted the SaaS platform of this API lifecycle management before it was acquired by Google in 2016. And then later on, as late as 2021, Google started integrating Apigee's functionality with Google's own infrastructure. So that's when Apigee X came into picture. This is the Edge version of Apigee for public cloud, or maybe the next version of Edge for public cloud. It is hosted on Google Cloud and managed by the Apigee. The next version that you see here is the Apigee Hybrid, which is still hosted by Google and also by Customer VPN. The management plane is by Apigee and the runtime plane is managed by the customer. So what's different with Apigee X? Apigee X came with the regular functionality that Apigee already had and included along with it the features that Google Cloud had. Listed below, you could see the major ones that were added. The primary one out there is the content delivery network. Google has a massive content delivery network that can cache your data across 144 network edge locations. This was integrated with Apigee, so you could host your APIs or API gateways across any of these regions. Also included with it is the multi-layer security, which was already part of Google Cloud. You had a web application firewall called Cloud Armor. Then you also have the identity platform of Google Cloud that was integrated with Apigee X. So you don't have to go to a third party for your security needs. It also had the integration of AI with Google Cloud. So there was protection against bot attacks and leveraging all these AI powered automation and then scaling appropriately or scaling down or up based on the AI algorithms. It also helped with compliance because there could be many data related compliance issues that you could probably host a certain API only in a certain region based on certain geographic location rules. So that compliance, it helped with people who were really global, operating globally. It helped with encryption. So all of these compliance related features were already part of Google Cloud offerings that could now be leveraged in Apigee X as well. Here is a network topology diagram that you will usually deal with when you're working with Apigee API platform. As you can see, the central components in this diagram are the customer VPC and Google VPC. So let's elaborate a little bit into Google VPC first. As you can see, there is Apigee runtime that is actually handling all the incoming requests through ingress and coordinating these requests out by sending them to the target backend APIs. As part of what it does, it also takes care of any of the mediation or translation that was coded as part of the Apigee API configuration. We will see further in our demo that you could make some translations as part of your response when you get a response back from backend. You can also have some policies embedded into it, and you can do much more than just what a target backend sends a reply with. Now you can also see Apigee APIs on top of the runtime. These APIs may be invoked through a Google Cloud command prompt if you have installed it on your machine and connected to this Google VPC, or you could use them or invoke them through the Google Cloud UI as well. The next component we'll talk about is the customer VPC. As you can see, the customer VPC has a global external IP and it takes in all the requests that are coming in from API users. So essentially, this is a load balancer on this proxy server that is going to redirect all of the traffic onto the Google VPC. So how is this communication done through customer VPC and Google VPC? There is a VPC peering setup, and that is done through instantiating another VM which has an internal IP on the customer VPC. When you add this VM as part of the same network as the Google VPC, then you could start doing a VPC peering and exchange information across both the VPCs. So any information or any request rather that comes from API users into the load balancer through the customer VPC can be passed down to the Google VPC through their ingress, and then the Apigee runtime will ensure that the request is appropriately served, and then a response from the target backend is received and coordinated back onto the customer VPC, which sends the response back to the API users. Now that we have seen these components, various components that make up the network topology, let's go ahead and take a look at the steps for provisioning. One of the first things that you would need is registering for the GCP account, obviously, and then you would create a Google project under which we are going to provision all of these various components that we had just gone through. So Apigee Provisioning Wizard will let you attach your Apigee project to a certain project ID in the GCP, and then it will let you pick a pricing plan. For our case, you could use evaluation. So once you select on evaluation, it will ask you for a few things. It will let you enable the APIs so that you are able to invoke the functionality within the Apigee instance. And then it will also let you set up the networking. You could use the default networks that are prepared for you when you provision your GCP account, or you could create a custom network. In our case, we are going to use the default one. Also, there is an option of reserving peer ranges for your VMs, or you could also use automatic allocation, which will work just fine for our case. After that, you would create an Apigee evaluation org and also select the regions under which you want to provision for your analytics and runtime. Once these are in place, then you could go ahead and ask for provisioning. The provisioning is done, but still there is one thing that was left to do, which is the VPC pairing. If you are looking for getting this accessible to the internet, to the world, then you would need an external load balancer. On the right, you see a screenshot of how you go through each of these phases and then you continue on to provisioning. In the next part of this lecture, let's take a look at a demo wherein we'll go ahead and set up a reverse proxy that's going to invoke a backend API, and we'll also take a look at the analytics provided by Apigee. So I'll see you there. Bye now.